Hey, everybody, welcome to this very special issue of Staffing Monthly, the industry's digital publication that focuses on recruiting, sales, marketing, leadership, and the technology and tools that you need to be aware of to help grow your agency. And this month is a very special issue because we are celebrating the release of a second book from the Lady Leaders Club. And if you're not familiar with this term or who this group is, this is really the foremost authority of women leaders in the staffing industry that come from a variety of different backgrounds, but every single one of them has achieved absolute success in this industry. And the common denominator between all of them, outside of being in the staffing industry, is the fact that they got to the top of the mountain and they didn't stop. They actually turned around, they put their hand out, and they've done so many things to help the next wave of leaders achieve that level of success in such a beautiful, selfless way or demonstration of leadership. And I'm excited to celebrate the new book coming out called Rising with Courage. And we have one of the leaders here today, Ericka Hyson. And Ericka, before I bring you on, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about your backstory because it is very, very impressive. So for those of you that don't listen, let me tell you really quickly about Ericka Hyson. She's been in this industry for more than a couple of decades, and she actually spent nearly 2 decades at Etain Group, which is in the industry as a producer. She started as a senior recruiter, account manager, wearing all the hats that the desk has. And over that, nearly 20-year career there, she ascended up to the COO position. So that tells you that she understands every nuance there is in this industry and scaling that company to amazing size and height and levels of success in this industry. From there, she went on to be the COO of Texas, the president of Workin. She joined ClearEdge, and everywhere she's gone along the way, she's helped those companies realign their focus and achieve the success that the organization desires. So not only is she this amazing visionary leader, she is a doer, and everywhere she goes, results happen. And in her current stop, she's actually stepped out on her own, thankfully for all of us, to have Hyson Advisory Group, where she works with other leaders in the industry to help them put the systems, the processes, establish the most important culture that they need to grow and thrive and be successful in this industry. So this is somebody that I have the highest level of admiration and respect for, and I'm grateful for her time. And you all should be ready to take notes and listen because when she speaks, it is the absolute truth and it's great wisdom. So Ericka, thank you so much for being here with us today and talking about the new book.
Wow, Dan, I'm blushing. What a wonderful, very sweet introduction. I should hire you to make commercials for me, telling my story because I never tell it like that. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. The feeling is mutual. I really appreciate the opportunity to be back on your show for the second time speaking about our book. So thank you for that. I'm really
Yeah.
excited to be here.
Absolutely. And I think that just speaks to the level of, your humble nature and humility that you have, that you don't tell your story like that. And I think that's also a common theme amongst the authors in this group is that none of you are out there on your platform telling your stories like that. And I think that's why this book was so important. And I know the first one, Together We Rise, when I learned about it, I read it because obviously I'm a girl dad, and it's important to me. Like I want to know, what is the perspective of other women leaders? Like what are they facing out there, and what do I need to be aware of to help them on their journey? And I love that you all got together and told some of the origin story. So, but skipping ahead now, why did it make sense to release Rising with Courage? Why was there a second act?
Wow. Well, I mean, the analogy you just gave of us climbing a mountain and reaching back to bring others with us. I mean, we really create a movement. We call it the Together We Rise movement. And it's not just us, really. We hope to inspire others like yourself, the women and the men and the allies out there to be able to help open doors for other people, right? And listening, sponsoring, and using positions of influence to help open those doors. And that's what allyship is all about. It's not always a grand gesture. It's, in my own career, and we've talked about this before, but I actually wrote about this in my chapter of the next book that's launching next week, which gives me goosebumps just to say it out loud. The importance of male allyship in my career has been tremendous, and it was very important for me in my chapter to share some voices of men who've shown up, spoken up, and helped me grow personally and professionally, because we are better together. And we have a pledge, the Lady Leaders Pledge, which is really about every day making an effort to help another woman rise. And collectively, we are so much stronger together, and we believe we can make a difference. So the second book, I mean, I was thinking of reflecting about the origin of the first book. And if you had asked this group of women who got together during the pandemic at our first book club, where we were roasting and toasting and celebrating Joyce Russell's first book about leadership and life lessons, put a cherry on top, we never, all of us would have said, yes, we are going to write a book. As a matter of fact, some of us were like, I don't know if we even want to put a chapter in the book when we first wrote the book. And it just is a testament to 5 years of friendship and the collective energy of the Lady Leaders Book Club, and how much we support each other, encourage each other, and help each other with all the things that have happened since the first book. So the second book, I'll tell you a little secret. The first book, we didn't really have our act together very much. I don't want to say it was chicken soupy, but we really wrote individual stories, and we didn't really have a common thread of how they would weave together. As a matter of fact, our chapters are in alphabetical order in the first book of our
Really?
last names. Right. Yeah. So there was
It's
not like a
interesting.
theme.
I've read the book, and I honestly I never picked up on that. I've even looked at the back cover to see who all the contributing authors were, and I never even wow.
Yep. And we had never, another true story. I actually first read everyone else's chapter in that first book on the airplane on the way to SIA's executive forum in 2021, when we launched the book on International Women's Day. So I had never read everyone else's chapter literally until I was on a plane headed to celebrate, because I just got the book in my hand. So this
Yeah.
next book, it's called Rising with Courage. So the theme of Together We Rise continues. It's about rising with courage, a practical guide to life and leadership. And it really is for everyone. As you imagine, we have a Lady Leaders book club that are all women, but we also feel like this next book, very intentionally, we wanted to reach out to the next generation of leaders in our industry, both men and women. And it's filled with practical wisdom from the 14 other co-authors and myself, around themes of courage. And it was a genesis of really a lot of our stories, and certainly things we're passionate about. And from conversations that we have, there's a lot of fear that steps in,
Hmm.
where when you think about making bold moves, even just the term bold move implies that there's fear behind it. It's like, what's holding you back from doing that thing? What if nothing was holding you back? What would you do then? What if your fear of money or financial stability for your family, whatever that thing is that holds you back, what if that was not an issue anymore? What then would you do? So this book is really intentional. Each of us chose a theme of courage that was important to our own story and journey that we wanted to share with others. And we have women in our group who have, faced tremendous health challenges that we've supported one another through. So we all wanted to speak about something that was really important to us. My chapter is actually called The Courage to Build, Leverage, and Activate Your Professional Circle.
Mm.
And I always like to say that networking is my superpower. And I certainly attribute that to my early days in recruiting, where, allyship at its most simple form is about helping talent find opportunities and open doors for people. And how intentional relationships can shape your career, certainly challenge your assumptions, and create opportunity where you least expect it.
I love that. I think that's definitely it speaks to an adage that I've quoted maybe too often, but they say if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And when I look at the leaders that contributed to these books, you all went far. And what I'm hearing you say is it's because you really activated your network. you recognize somewhere inherently you had this instinct that thought, hey, if I build an effective network and, I collaborate in the right spots and I'm intentional about it, and you stay consistent with that, that will lead to, the duration, the longer journey of success. So I think that's a smart lesson for leaders to take.
Absolutely. And it's like you think about collecting contacts or even the term networking feels kind of icky.
Yeah.
When people say, I need some help with expanding my network, it's like, well, what are you trying to accomplish? And why does it seem so hard? And part of why I really wanted to speak about this is I'm actually really an introvert. I know that might surprise you, Dan. But I was painfully shy as a young child, and I don't love public speaking. We talk about a lot of fear and moving through fear and just getting right into it. I would much rather be in the company of, 1 to 5 people than in a room full of 100. And I think it's one of my superpowers. So I want to encourage people who consider themselves not to be an extrovert and that think that you need to be an extrovert to be great at networking. A lot of it is tapping into your ability to listen and really truly connect at an individual level. And I want those introverts to understand if you struggle with that idea of networking, that I was one too. I struggled with it. And actually, my story in the book, you'll appreciate, Dan. I actually didn't realize what I was doing at the time. So I learned, I'm 52. I'm not afraid to share my age. You talked about me being a dinosaur in our industry. I've been at it for about 25 years now in staffing. I really picked up the phone one day and I cold called a leader that was going to be presenting at SIA's exec forum as a voice of the customer on a panel. And I called him. He was a leader at Southwest Airlines. I wrote about this in my chapter, so I'll give you a little sneak preview here for the
Love it.
audience.
Love it.
I picked up the phone and I called him. I actually didn't expect him to answer, first of all. Who answers their phone? And he answered. And I remember it like it was yesterday because I was like a flustered mess and I was pretty awkward, but I really started gushing because I wasn't that prepared for him to answer. But what I let him know was that I was studying Southwest Airlines and I really admired their culture. And Southwest had really a reputation for paying their people not the most amount of money, but yet attracting talent and having so much fun and having the Southwest Airlines spirit.
Yeah.
Their ticker on the stock exchange is Love, LUV, and they have Love Field, and it resonated with me that I wanted to learn from companies outside of our industry. So I picked up the phone and I knew we were both going to be in the same city at the same time. And my ask was, can we connect? I'd love to just pick your brain and understand more about how you do it. Because at the time I was chartered with running and building a people department for Etain Group, which was the rocket ship I was on at the time. We were about 48 million in revenue. We had yet to pass 100 million. Everybody wanted to get there. And we knew that our biggest constraint for growth was talent. And I was taking on the initiative to really be pivotal in our big pivotal moment in my career to build out the engine that would allow us. At this time we were doing organic growth to scale. So how do we acquire, grow, appreciate, recognize, and retain some of the best talent available? And
Yeah.
we didn't hire people with experience. So I knew I had a lot to learn. And I was reading books called The Southwest Airlines Way, and I was ordering culture books from Zappos and studying companies I admired. And I think, Greg he told me when we had lunch together at the conference, he said, "You're the only person I took a meeting with." And I know it was because
Wow.
I wasn't there to sell anything. I really was curious and learning. So I mentioned that because it wasn't intentional at the time, but looking back, he was really my first mentor. And we ended up building a friendship, and he helped me build, lots of things, including our first internship program. And I could pick up the phone and phone a friend. He welcomed me to come down to get a tour. I got to look at all the uniforms and the culture wall, and we replicated something similar in our office where we had photos and just like made people feel that Etain Group love. So our core values were very strong, and it was about the people. And so I wrote about that, and here's this, somebody just a curious learner, and it's so important that people don't overthink mentoring, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't officially call him my mentor. He didn't put a name on it. Nobody labeled it, but
Yeah.
he was my first mentor, and certainly you can be more intentional than I was, right? Looking back in the rearview mirror, that's what inspires me to help bring others along. It's like if I only knew then what I know now, right? So all of us as
Yeah.
leaders, we want to help inspire the future, and if we can help intentionally support and share our stories of folks that are in the middle of it right now, to give some different perspectives, because it is experience that helps you, learn from your mistakes as well.
And I think that experience feeds wisdom, and I also think wisdom feeds intentionality. A lot of times we start out on a path and we can't be intentional because we don't have the foundation of wisdom or knowledge to lead intention. So our paths are oftentimes started out with the desire for discovery. And I think that open-minded, that curiosity, I think that can lead to wisdom. And I also think it appeals to leaders like Greg in this case. I think a lot of leaders, the most successful people, tend to be very open and accessible, and they're giving of their time to people that will appreciate their time. And I think I'm willing to bet that the reason that Greg gave you this meeting and you were the only one is because he sensed your authenticity with wanting to learn and get better. And as a leader, that's something he probably prided himself on, was developing other people, whether they were his or elsewhere. And I think that, so yeah, I think wisdom feeds intentionality. I don't think you have to start with intentionality. I think start with curiosity and see where it goes.
I think yes, and I did define my ask. I like to tell people, like, if you're going to enlist a mentor or want someone to support you in your journey, the more clarity you can provide when you're reaching out to ask someone for help. People can't read your mind, right? So
Yeah.
what I did do well in that, awkward, shy moment when I got him on the phone was I let him know what I wanted, right? My intention of what I was looking for, right? I really wanted to learn about the culture at Southwest, and that part I did do well. I don't know if knew that I did that well, but I know that he knew then how he could help me. And oftentimes when people want support or reach out and say, "Hey, I'd love some time with you," I really like to encourage people to be clear about what you're hoping to get out of the conversation, right? It's like on a sales meeting, you want to have an
Yeah.
agenda. What are we looking to accomplish? What can you help me with, or how can we help each other? And reciprocity is certainly important. I think at that time I was, in hindsight, like I wasn't as focused on giving back. I was like soaking it all up like a
Yeah.
sponge. I was like getting every nugget of wisdom I could, and I
But now
don't
you
know.
but now you're paying it forward tenfold. So sometimes reciprocity doesn't have a shelf life, right? Sometimes reciprocity takes a while to develop, and over a career that spans what you've accomplished in yours, you're paying it back, tenfold these days. And I love the fact that you said define your ask. And we actually I recently interviewed Kim Henderson, and when in the Teach Me Something in 10 Minutes segment, she taught me the Sandler technique of upfront contract, which I'm a student of Sandler, so I already knew it, but she taught our audience this. And that was really about what you just said. It's like, be clear, be clear. A lot of times when salespeople are asking for a meeting, or even if you're a leader of an organization and you're going to request a meeting with someone, in the organization, you should be clear. You don't want to leave room for assumptions to manifest in people's minds because sometimes that can create stress and anxiety, and actually it prevents proper preparation for that meeting. So I'm a big fan of what you just shared about being clear with your ask, whether it's a sales meeting, an internal org meeting, or reaching out to someone you admire in the industry and asking for their time. So I love that. I have a question. Something you said really, really resonated with me, and I feel like we could have a whole other long conversation about this, but you mentioned about the culture wall and really, influencing a strong culture at Etain Group. And um, did was Etain, did they have a distributed workforce? Was there multi-site locations, or was it just sort of rather centralized?
Yes, yes. We had offices throughout the Southeast and eventually expanded west to have a national footprint.
How did you maintain a consistent culture throughout the entire organization when you have different regions and there's a sense of regionality that influences personality and modes of business? How did you really influence and maintain a consistent culture of high performance and accountability?
Our core values, I mean, to me, this is the secret sauce, Dan, right? If and you and I have talked about this before, right? With great people, anything is possible, right? Even in the absence of process or technology, great people empowered to do amazing things for your customers are going to yield results to a certain extent. They're going to figure things out,
Yeah.
right? Like, this is like part of why startups exist, right? The
Yeah.
entrepreneurial spirit. And Etain was always very entrepreneurial, even as we grew. And we had a core value system, which really, if you live your core values and you make them operationalize, right, where they're really intentional and you have, when I say operationalize, that's such a like corporate word, but basically you pull them through in everything that you do, right? So our core values, we had an acronym to set yourself apart. It stood for attitude, performance, accountability, respect, and teamwork. We took those beyond a poster on the wall and we defined the behaviors that we meant by each of those things. So one of the things that our vision was to create opportunities for others. So powerful, right? To give people purpose. And our definition of teamwork was not about just rah rah, like be a team player, which
Yeah.
you might think. Our definition of teamwork and how it shows up at a recruiter level, at a salesperson level, at a leadership level, at an executive level. We really defined those behaviors, and there was an element of sacrifice about creating opportunity for the person sitting next to you,
Mm,
about bringing someone else up around you. So that's just an example of that. Attitude was about bringing positivity to your work, and it's contagious. Accountability was about performance and doing what you say you're going to do. Respect was about giving respect, but also being respected. So we really defined those behaviors, and then we wove them through the fabric of the organization. We brought them into performance review conversations, developmental opportunities. We certainly, on the front end of the funnel, hired for them and had screening questions and situational interview questions to really make sure values are aligned because people aren't going to be happy in your company if they get there and they're like, oh, this isn't what I expected. Accountability was something we did really uniquely, Dan, where we empowered employees to hold each other accountable so that you didn't wait for a leader to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I didn't see you get your 5 submittals today or whatever your number was. If someone had a rough conversation sitting next to you, like grab them and say, hey, do you want to talk about that? Just help each other. So you asked the question, like, how did you do that everywhere? We made it the fabric of the business, but we also did a lot of cool recognition around it. We had a Rob Eubank Memorial Award. My partner and president
yeah.
of Etain passed away, and he was one of the biggest champion and cheerleaders for our core values. So we had a Rob Eubank Memorial Award that we instituted the year he passed in 2011. And it was something where peers would nominate someone that was really exemplifying our apart values. And it was a big deal to be on the short list of the Rob Eubank Memorial Award. And we would have finalists that were announced and then a winner. And we had a big ceremony about it. We did it at Atlantis or wherever our rewards trip was. And it's something that was so ingrained in the culture that when Experis acquired, Manpower acquired Etain Group, it's something that they kept. Um,
Wow.
so when we think about how do you do this on a, $150 million scale or $1 billion scale, those core values are really one of the things I'm most proud of, that legacy, and certainly honoring Rob. But it takes work and you have to be serious about it. So I think that the reason sometimes core values are not brought to life in the way that a leader might intend them to is because I'll go back to this theme of courage in our book. Because they're afraid to let someone go or hold someone accountable because they're a top performer, but they're acting and behaving in the way that your business doesn't support. And
Mm,
for every employee that you keep in your company that is misbehaving, just to use that term, right? Their behaviors don't align with your core values, it sends a message to everyone else that your values are, you know, are not something that you really are living by. So you have to be serious about them, and including making really tough decisions if somebody's a really great performer, but they're not a great team player, for example, or they're selfish if in the case of not splitting a territory or, you know, opening doors for things, or maybe they disrespected someone. Like whatever those values are, you've got to hold them, and every conversation you have can be, your values should show up. And it takes practice, Stan. It takes discipline. You have to really love your values. When I
Yeah.
work with clients, it's one of the first things I like to look at is like, what are your core values and are these still true?
Yeah. I think that's big. I love everything that you just said. I think that that in and of itself can be the foundation for a greater conversation that we could have that people could learn from. But I think that's really powerful. And I love how you showcase how you weave it through everything and that you actually live it. Because I agree, if you just have a fancy poster on a wall and then you point to it only when things are going wrong or only when you want to, you know, reprimand somebody for poor performance, it weaponizes accountability and it makes it a negative thing. And accountability for top performers can be one of the best tools they have. I mean, that's why the highest, best performing athletes out there love game tape and they like coaches that, you know, will correct them because they're accountable to high performance and results. And I I
I
think it's
learned this from
incredible.
Southwest. I think that I want to bring that kind of back to my first mentor and how impactful he would be on my whole career. And I often reflect like, what would happen if I never made that call? Right? Like how
Yeah.
much of what we built was because I was learning from one of the best companies that built culture very intentionally. They had strong core values. They would do really fun things. The other thing I loved about Southwest is I just love the fun,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah.
people like to say we work hard, we play hard. Like if you run on a Southwest flight, and the flight attendants are really just, you know, they're goofing around. And
Yeah.
there was an element of that I realized like this is really cool. Zappos too, right? They empower their employees to do cool things for their customers without asking permission, right? It's like just do the right thing always kind of mentality. And when I was learning from Greg, I remember hearing stories of things that Southwest was doing to recognize people very similarly with peer-to-peer nominations, and they would have shout outs on weekly calls where people knew that they were getting nominated for recognition, and then they would have like, you know, a pot of money, I think. And one time there was a story of somebody that was working in baggage, you know, one of the loaders that was taking baggage off of an airplane, and had won this award, and they presented it to him in a piece of luggage, and it was like you open it up and there's like cash money coming out, and just like what a fun thing. Like that was not a norm. It was, let's do something really fun and special based on this person and their role. It didn't feel like a robot. Oh, I have to be recognized today and I get my check. The
Yeah.
other thing it taught me is that experiences are more memorable than the money,
Yeah.
right? I
I
bet that employee remembered the way he was recognized more than he did what was in the piece of luggage.
100%. And that really is that's what sticks with us. You know, I mean, really life is really the stories that we create from moment to moment, you know, and that's what we talk about. And I love that. So as we're winding up our time here today, I'm going to end with the same question, slightly tweaked or a revised version. We'll say an iteration, just like this new book, Rising with Courage, that we did the last time we celebrated this book. If you were sitting in front of, I'm going to paint a very clear picture of an avatar of somebody. Let's say there is a female leader that's young in their staffing career and they've ascended from producer and now they're into like an early management role, maybe like an assistant director role or a manager, and maybe they have one or two, maybe three direct reports reporting to them. And they're in this role and they're trying to transition from producer to manager, but they're also ambitious and they're looking ahead at the org chart in an organization and they want to also, you know, continue their path. What advice would you give to that person to help them be successful in their current role and continue their journey of success to the organization?
Great question. I mean, your avatar, I can see this person. And Dan, a couple things, if I'm allowed to share a couple things on our
Yeah.
closing note. Back to the defining the ask, like, don't be afraid to share your goals with others, right? And I say that because people don't know how they can help you. Back to defining your ask. And so by sharing your goals with others, this is where the magic happens, right? Because you never know where that person's going to end up in the next room, next conversation, and this allows you to activate your allies. People you don't even know are saying your name when you're not in the room,
Yeah.
right? You're enlisting people that are here for to support you. This could be a peer, it could be someone that is above you. It doesn't really matter who it is. So tell as many people as you can. Share your dreams with others. The second piece of advice I have is to not limit yourself with limiting beliefs, right? So sometimes I
Mm.
hear a lot where we have this sort of inner critic in our heads where you hear about the term imposter syndrome, like I'm not ready, I don't deserve this. I need to do this one more thing before I can get that role. And this is especially true with women, but it exists with men and women, right? If I'm, did I do it? Did I earn this thing? Maybe I need to wait for someone to tap me on the shoulder. Women typically don't ask for things, right? We're taught at a young age that we are going to have some prince riding in on a white horse, rescue us from the tower, propose to us. We're not taught to ask for things. And so we sit and wait for great things to happen. And I personally, I wrote about this in the first chapter of or the first book that was kind of me or my early stage in my career is I thought if I just work really hard and put my head down, I will get noticed. Well, guess what? Like people aren't thinking about you. You have to advocate for yourself. Be your best advocate and surround yourself with people that are going to make you better. If people are not going to serve you, then don't spend your energy there. And circle can be built with intention, but activated with your heart.
Man, from your mouth to my ears, I know that you don't love being on stage speaking in front of lots of people, but gosh, you should be. You should be. All
Well,
right.
thank
So
you, Dan. I've got four opportunities next week at Staffing World. I hope to see some of your listeners there next week
um,
as we're getting ready to launch our book. I don't even have a copy in my hand yet to hold up for you because it's going to be that hot off the press.
I know that's what I was going to ask. So when this officially comes out, that's my last question is how do people get their hands on it? Is it going to be on Amazon like Together We Rise or website? Where do we go to get this book?
Great question. If you're at Staffing World, we have several opportunities to engage with all of the lady leaders are going to be there, which we haven't all been together in the same room. We don't do that very often.
Yeah.
So all of our proceeds from our book have gone back to the American Staffing Association's Women in Leadership Scholarship Fund. So we are very thrilled and honored to be a part of ASA Thrive Live, which is in Orlando at Staffing World, where we will be have a couple of our lady leader authors on stage sharing about the book. We'll have I think maybe a limited edition, 150 copies in the back of the room for sale. I'm sure some of us will be able to sign some copies while we're there. We'll also be at the ASA book library on Monday, and we'll be moderating and facilitating some networking lunches during Thrive Live, and we hope to see you there. There will certainly be copies available on Amazon as soon as they're ready. We are down to the wire and very excited that we'll have some copies with us at Staffing World. I can't wait to get my hands on my copy.
Awesome. I know. I'm looking forward to getting a copy as well as soon as they're available. So I can add it to my collection with Together We Rise. And it's actually Together We Rise is probably right up there amongst the most books I've given away. It is one of my most gifted books, with up there with like Essentialism from Greg McCown. That's another one that I give so people know how to manage the trade-off of life. But Ericka,
Thank
thank
you
you so
so
much.
much.
Thank you
It
so
means a
much for
lot.
all you do and just being the leader that you are and just leading by example, like building something worth building and worth recognizing, and then turning around and teaching others very selflessly how to do the same. And I know that you do it from a place of you wanting to see other people win by however they define success. So just keep doing what you do. It means a
Right
lot.
back at you, Dan. I really admire you as well and appreciate all of the support and encouragement. And on behalf of all the Lady Leaders, we really appreciate all that you're doing to help us gain some visibility and certainly encourage others to be a part of the movement because we have a lot of work to do.
That's true. And for those of you that are listening, if you don't know who Ericka Hyson is, I highly encourage you to follow her on LinkedIn. Go connect with her on LinkedIn. If you're going to be at Staffing World, go to her sessions, go connect with her, get your hands on one of these books and read it, purchase it, help support the scholarship fund. They really are doing all these things to make our industry better. So, Ericka, thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to reading the book.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's my pleasure.